When I was little, I was a voracious reader.
Little? Anya, you 100% still are a voracious reader.
Okay, true. But from 3rd through 5th grade, maybe, I would spend entire weekends just reading books. I really wanted to read what I thought was good, high-class literature. So I tore through Wuthering Heights, The Princess and the Goblin, Oliver Twist, Pinocchio,
The Railway
The Swiss
Children,
Family
Little
Robinson,
Women.
The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
So all these great Western novels.
Yeah, pretty much. And I would make up stories, write down new fantastical worlds where people had superpowers or lived in 18th century England or went to high school. I loved coming up with new characters. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl next door, the daring brunette who jumped off buildings and saved the world from vampires. Families where everyone ate steak and potatoes and went to baseball games.
Never mind that you were vegetarian and had never been to a baseball game.
Exactly. Without even realizing it, I had transferred the lack of representation in the books I read to my own writing. My characters never acted like me, never even looked like me. Thinking back on it, the characters in my stories were always white, every single one. I had written myself out of the narrative because I so rarely saw myself as part of the narrative.
Anya is far from alone. Young artists everywhere overwrite their own identity and experiences with those presented in mainstream media. The lack of authentic diversity in the arts has a serious impact.
Yes, artists of color are finally finding institutional support for their unique perspectives. We have shows like Blackish.
Artists like J-Lo.
Movies like Crazy Rich Asians.
Poet laureates like Joy Harjo.
But it's just not enough. People of color continue to be underrepresented. Or when they are represented, are often the victims of harmful racial stereotypes.
Put simply, the lack of genuine diversity in the arts reinforces racism and leaves us all with an impoverished cultural landscape.
We are here to tell our story, to convince you of the need for diversity in the arts, and to share how you can contribute to diversifying the arts yourselves.
So let's start at the beginning. The two of us have participated in the arts since we were old enough to walk.
We were lucky enough to grow up shuttling between dance lessons, a cappella rehearsals, and summer theater shows.
You may find us belting out Beyonce in the bathroom, attending exhibits at the Seattle Art Museum during our free time, or doodling during class, essentially immersing ourselves in art and artwork.
Whether it's choreographing a dance in my head, contemplating a new set of photos to take, or recording the angsty songs I've written in my room, my mind is always creating.
Art is also my venue for activism, a tool to keep my life organized and a main way I connect with other people and the world. However, as people of color, our artistic experiences are often tied to microaggressions and feelings of isolation.
When I was 13, I got a role in the summer play. Sure, I had only one line, but I felt on top of the world. Then I overheard a girl saying,
"The only reason she was cast was because the director wanted to put more people of color on stage."
My bubble of excitement popped. I will forever doubt if I am talented enough or if the only reason I am cast is to fill a quota.
I faced similar struggles in my own dance experience. Despite having won awards and attending a prestigious dance conservatory, I became racked with self-doubt. Everywhere I looked, my safe place, ballet, seemed to be organized and led by white people. White composers, musicians, dancers, even the audiences I danced for were majority white.
Those feelings of isolation day after day hit you like a gut punch. Negativity fills your mind.
Do I belong here?
Am I worthy?
Even when people of color are represented in the arts, those portrayals are rarely accurate. When Fresh Off the Boat first aired in 2015, I was so excited to finally see a show with Asian leads telling an Asian story. But the reality of the show was different. The actors used thick, exaggerated accents and played up the model minority stereotype. It felt inauthentic, as if the only reason for my inclusion was to be laughed at by white audiences.
This issue is personal to us, yes, but also universal. How many people of color on this planet are passionate about the arts but don't feel like they belong?
How many young people of color don't see themselves in the arts and therefore choose to pursue a different career?
How many stories will continue not to be told?
We know how important it is to begin nourishing artists of color at a young age.
3 years ago, we started an organization that supports teen artists of color by providing them with resources and opportunities, a community of peers and mentors who look like them and share their experiences.
One of our favorite success stories involves a young Latina, Sophia.
After Sophia won a playwriting competition at ACT Theater, one of Seattle's biggest commercial theaters, we featured her in our web series. In her video, she spoke candidly about her play,
Centered around undocumented immigrants,
her heritage, and the barriers that kept her and others from the arts.
When we posted Sophia's video to her school's newsletter, students and teachers alike congratulated her on her accomplishments.
I remember Sophia calling us to share how validating the experience had been for her.
She said, "I never thought of myself as an artist before your video, but it made me think I could go into the arts in the future. You made me feel seen."
We hope to replicate that moment many times over.
Together, we are creating a shared space for art that authentically portrays people of color.
We are helping BIPOC teens see themselves as part of the arts world.
By supporting young people, we are changing and diversifying the arts landscape.
But efforts like ours need societal buy-in. Large-scale arts organizations,
Book publishers,
Hollywood,
or record labels, to name a few.
must also realistically spotlight people of color.
Because positive, authentic representation has a huge impact.
For example, 3 years ago, I watched Blinded by the Light, a movie about a young South Asian, first-generation immigrant named Javid. When, instead of succumbing to parental pressure, Javid decided to pursue his dream of poetry, I felt a tear roll down my cheek. Although a small moment, Javid's choice showed that South Asian people are not just one-dimensional STEM robots. I saw myself in a new and better light.
When people of color view art that shows us as authentic human beings, we receive important validation of our heritage and beliefs.
We recognize ourselves to be worthy of celebration and joy.
It's important to point out that diversity in the arts doesn't only affect people of color, but our entire society.
Whatever we see in the media, we all subconsciously perceive as real, for better or for worse.
A 2009 study by Tufts analyzed television shows with Black characters. When viewers saw more negativity expressed towards Black characters by other actors, those viewers then exhibited a greater anti-Black bias in implicit bias tests.
In other words, when they saw racism in art, they ended up perpetuating that racism in their everyday interactions.
What we experience in the arts inevitably affects our daily lives. If we're serious about combating racism in the world, we must address racism, both implicit and explicit, in the arts and arts industry.
Art, in all its forms, is a unique vehicle for tearing down racial barriers. Diverse artwork helps build empathy and understanding for different backgrounds.
Though I'm not quite as avid a reader as Anya, I've been through my fair share of
Don Quixotes and Robinson Crusoes.
So when I was assigned Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God, I began the book with the same amount of enthusiasm you'd expect from a junior in high school. Minimal. But as I read, I fell in love with characters like Janie Crawford and Tea Cake. What makes the novel unique is that it's written about a Black woman with historically accurate dialogue and dialects. What began as required reading became a window into another time and another person's story, a bridge for understanding and growth.
Luckily, we all have the power to advocate for these kinds of diverse, inclusive stories. After all, pretty much everyone consumes art on a daily basis, from a museum exhibit to a TV show to a song on the radio.
All of you can ultimately determine what kind of art you want to see.
Watch TV shows with a diverse, authentic array of characters. Move beyond the great Western novel or classical canon and read books by underrepresented authors.
If you can, use your money to make an impact. Purchase artwork from local, small-scale artists of color, many of whom face economic pressure, or donate to organizations that provide youth of color with scholarships or free opportunities to pursue art.
And use your voice to spark change. Advocate for diversity in high school reading lists and middle school art classes. Create your own artwork that authentically showcases diverse perspectives.
We don't have all of the answers,
but we hope we've given you some ideas for how to promote diversity in the arts, beginning today, beginning with you.
Art has the ability to connect, move, and change us. So what happens when we choose to consume diverse, inclusive, and equitable art?
We are shown new realities, new people and places we can explore and become. We build empathy. You have a newfound appreciation for different cultures, experiences, and worldviews.
Authentic diversity in the arts starts with an active choice.
Let's choose to write stories about everyone, for everyone.
Let's choose to paint pictures of the world we want to see in all of its color and imperfections.
Let's act and come together
to make a racially equitable world. Thank you.